Good morning. How are you? Well, it's beautiful out today. The Thomas Jefferson report is that we're in the low 70s. We'll get to the 80s, and the wind is at 6 miles an hour, which is pleasant. And I'm wearing my dad's old jacket in honor of Father's Day. I wore it yesterday, I wear it today, may wear it tomorrow. My dad once kidded me about, and I think this was his way of encouraging me to be careful about weight and health. And he said that at his age, when my father was younger and so was I, he said he had a 22-inch waist. Could I keep that? And the truth is, it's fluctuated like the weather. Right now we're closer to my dad's 22. But it feels like he's close by me because I'm wearing his jacket. My mom had knitted something I put on a rocking chair, and when I sit in it, I feel like I'm closer to her. And my dad died at 68 of lung cancer, so it's a long time ago. And I wish he was around longer so that I could get the benefit of the questions that I've had as I've grown older, and it'd be interesting to hear his responses. So, one of the things I think my dad encompassed, being a World War II veteran and raising a family and having only a high school education, was, I don't know if it's the struggle or the fight, but from an early age, because of street fistfights and things like that, I've sided with the notion of fighting back, fighting for something. And it makes me almost ill when I see the statements made by, the Republicans, especially Trump, of course, and that they go unanswered. Lincoln advised that was always a mistake in politics and life. But we don't seem to honor that tradition, understand the value of that principle. And we're less politically, and perhaps lower in the polls, in some places where it matters, than we should be. We have a good and important story to tell, and we're not telling it. And part of that story is our visions of America. A vision that we are all equal before the law, that we have a right to vote to shape our government. And the fact that it's been truly imperfect, if not almost canceled in recent years, is an argument not to abandon it, but to embrace it. In campaigns I've been involved in, and I'm sure they're being used in this campaign, there were boiler rooms, so-called, war rooms, and I'm sure they are being used in this campaign. But they're not being used to fight back and to fight on. And that's a big mistake. I'm not talking points. Just a day or so ago, I was highlighting the difference between fact and science and the lies and slanders of the Republicans. And yesterday, the Supreme Court made a decision that, believe it or not, sided with gangsters. Because back in the 1930s, because of crime open on the street, we passed a law against machine guns. And so those movies you've seen, Elliot Ness and company like that, in which people have machine guns, that was outlawed. It was outlawed in large part because of the public shootings and who were killed, who were not just the bad guys, if you will. So the Supreme Court, in a single decision, has now washed away that prohibition when using what they call bump stocks. And the court talks about it a great deal, but it reduces to the following. If you can put your finger on a semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock, pulling the trigger once, the bump stock operates in such a way that you can fire continuously as a machine gun. So the question was, to borrow Sotomayor, who walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck, meaning that this device, a bump stock, because it bumps the trigger without you moving it. It bumps the shot, if you will. And it does it faster than you could if you were to pull the trigger each time you were shooting. And so, in recent days, we saw how it was used in Las Vegas and how many people were killed or wounded because of the use of a bump stock. And so we outlawed it while Trump was president. Republicans and Democrats agreed to this device. And so Congress has voted on whether or not a bump stock should be used and outlawed it. But this Supreme Court that ignores science and good public policy has compromised the safety of every one of us by eliminating this prohibition to the pleasure, of course, of the NRA and these groups that care more about the manufacture of weapons of domestic war than they care about the safety of citizens. The almighty dollar seems to win out all the time. And you know, no one can say that a machine gun is used for hunting. They can say it, I suppose. Even among those who are identified as gun owners who do hunting with their weapons, I think the number's down like 17% or 12%. So those who may claim to be hunters, are you telling me that some subset of those are using these weapons to hunt? I don't think so. And when people can kill at a distance and they get that crazy idea in their head, and we don't have laws that we enforce, we have real problems going on. And Thomas, ironically, when not receiving huge gifts from his patrons, he wrote the opinion of the court. And he said that a bump stock does not convert a semi-automatic weapon into a machine gun. Now, the code in 1934 in the National Firearms Act said a machine gun is any weapon which shoots ... automatically more than one can shoot without manually reloading by a single function of the trigger. Okay, now in English, and that is English, and that is the text, and these people claim to, these people, that is the cult of six on the Supreme Court, claim to follow the text. Don't, because it is a single act of the trigger plus the bump stock, which is a device that aids in the delivery of death and destruction by a semi-automatic weapon that becomes a machine gun. And the law says that any part that takes a single weapon and makes it a machine gun is prohibited. Now, the three who voted against this mayhem and textual nonsense are Kagan and Jackson joining Sotomayor. And she stated very clearly, a bump stock harnesses a rifle's recoil energy to slide the rifle back and forth and repeatedly bump the shooter's stationary trigger finger, creating reproduced fire. Now, the airwaves have been filled with people saying this is an outrage. Plainly, the bump stock is a device for death and destruction and personal injury when used. And the Congress, the bipartisan Congress, was right. When under Trump, they outlawed these bump stocks. Bump meaning we bump the next bullet, bump the next one. Just keep bumping with one pull by the finger for all this repeated mayhem. This is where America is. We're not safe anymore because those charged with making the law, enforcing it, and interpreting it are not cooperating together. And the irony, which shows the weakness of our system, is that what Republicans and Democrats agreed to years ago, they couldn't agree to now. And so when Judge Alito, another star on the court, says, "Oh, there's no mistaking the language," as if to counter how clear the language is in the obvious other direction from where the cult of six went on this matter. So that's why I think we need a war room or a boiler room that is empowered to fight back. And I mean all of them to fight back. Because we're not now. And these are really important issues. So I invite you to tell our so-called lawgivers that they should pass a law immediately, at least put the Republicans on the record for whether or not they believe in gun safety as opposed to carnage. And we should take each issue that comes up on a day-to-day basis and rebut it and push back. The New York Post has made something today of the fact that President Biden wandered from the group, seemingly going to wave and talk to another parachutist when he was with the G7. And they've made that into a suggestion, oh, there's something about him, he's not functioning well. And this tells you a lot about how desperate the Republicans are. And with AI and other devices, in the absence of a response by like-minded Democrats, independents, and Republicans that do not trust that they can vote for Trump without having an autocracy, a monarchical regime, instead of the democracy that we have established as the basis of our government, and equality before that body, and that no person is above the law in this government. So that's what I got this morning, and this is all before a cup of coffee. So I say goodbye to you from my cathedral of trees, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow, Father's Day. Bye-bye.